Okay, I'm back. Like I said, that driver's side valve cover's off. Now this one's off. One good piece of news is, remember I was telling you about that bracket on the heating system down here on the bottom of the valve cover. There's a bolt. You don't have to take that out. I just basically took I just bent this back a little bit out of the way, and I was able to get this valve cover out. Good. And one thing that I can tell you is that you really don't have to take this valve cover all the way out. If you can get it just loose enough to separate it right here, you're okay, because I was thinking there were bolts in the top of this head that went down in there, but actually that valve cover, the front timing cover, comes up just to the valve, bottom of the valve cover, so you don't have to take this side out all the way. You can just kind of prop it up a little bit. You know, if it's in there, sort of just raise it up there on this side a little bit in order to get into these bolts. That way when you put this back together, you can just bolt that back down on top of there. I think you understand what I'm saying. But I went through all that trouble and I yanked it out of there, and I realized, well, wait a minute, I don't have to take this all the way out, because I had to kind of move some wires around back there and just kind of get it out of the way. But I did, I guess it's good to know that it's pretty clean in there. Doesn't look too bad. And let's see, this chain on this side is nice and tight. So all my issue is over here on this side. I'm pretty much done for tonight. I'm going to come out tomorrow and finish this. I am beat. As you can see, this chain on this side, if I take my hand, that is ridiculously loose. So I would think that timing gear, not the timing gear, the timing, oh gosh, it is, must be late, I can't even think now. The guides, one of the guides on this side is apparently busted, but we'll see it tomorrow. We'll take it apart, but all I got to do now is take some bolts off the bottom of this front cover down there on the oil pan, which is easy to get to. There's like three or four of them, and start taking these bolts off around the top of it, and we'll pop this off. So we'll do that tomorrow. I'm going to go in and rest a little bit, get a good night's sleep, come back out tomorrow and do it, and we'll see what happened to this thing. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you before I call it a night. I did take off my pulleys and stuff. I marked them. You see a bit of paint there, and I got some red paint there, and I got some white paint down there, and I don't have any paint on the top pulley. And they're all sitting right there, so I know where everything goes back, because the one pulley there has sort of some threads on it. Then the other two pulleys are just idler pulleys, so you got to put those back in right. Sometimes it's easy to forget which pulley goes where. Okay, that's what I wanted to tell you before I head off. Call it a night. Alright, we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll take this front timing cover off, and we'll see what's going on down in there. Kind of a mystery. Hello everybody, I am back. New day. Looks like a pretty nice day outside, and I feel a lot better. I'm rested, and I am going to finish taking this apart here in the next hour or so. By the way, last night I was saying that you didn't have to really take your valve covers off to do this, but if you're just going to go in here and look at the timing chain and see why it's rattling, and maybe just replace a guide or something, you don't really have to get in here and take these bolts off or anything on the camshafts. Now, if you're going to replace a chain or something, you'll have to get in here and take these bolts off, and it's probably a good idea to move those covers out of the way. That way you can get in here and maybe get the way I tighten these bolts up and break these bolts loose on the cam. I usually take a pair of vice grips. I've got a couple pair that I usually just grab the cam somewhere and lock those channel locks, and that usually really helps out breaking those bolts loose on the cam. Just to give you a little heads up on that. I think this side's a little bit easier to get to. You can put your vice grips down there on that cam. They actually make a tool to break this bolt loose. I'm not sure where to get it, and I've seen pictures of it. And this cam here has some holes cut in it, so you can actually probably put something in there and hold it while you break that bolt loose. This side cam does not. So like I said, you would probably have to get some vice grips or something to hold that cam in place, unless you want to go ahead and buy a tool to do that. Alright, enough said about that. All I got to do now is take the bolts off around this cover. There's bolts around the top. There's some deep well. There's some 13s and 16 bolts. And if I go underneath, grab my light. Hopefully it'll stay plugged up. There are a few bolts, and I'm going to make. I'm making this video for my own reference, because I forget sometimes. There's a bolt right there on that bottom of that timing cover that I need to take off. Is that it? I think that's it right there. If I can see it there, I don't have my glasses right now. But there's a bolt there I gotta take off. And sort of, let me put my finger on it. Alright, right there, there it is. Okay, I think my camera's focused today. I'm not sure. Is it focusing? Okay. It doesn't look like it on my screen. Okay, there's a better picture of it. There's a long bolt there, and there's a little stud that goes above it. That actually holds that power steering line. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 little bolts to take off. And the rest of the bolts are basically up there on the cover. You can see those. They're kind of hidden there. Once I take all those off, that cover is ready to come off, and we'll be able to see why that timing chain got so loose. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, take all this off. Then when I get ready to pop this off, I'll fire the camera back up, and you can watch me pull this off, and we'll have a good look. And by the way, don't forget your crank sensor right there. See that little bolt there? Right below that nut, there's a crank sensor right there. I typically just unplug it because that second bolt in the back is kind of tight to get to. But you do want to unhook that and just leave the cam sensor in the case, and you should be able to pop that cover off. And let's see, and I think that's it. Alright, let me go ahead and pop this off, and we'll look at it here in a few minutes. Alright, boys and girls, I got all the bolts out of the cover. And hopefully you can see me pull this off, so they're all loose. We'll go ahead and see if we can get this cover off real quick. And just kind of pry easy on it. There it goes. It usually comes off pretty easy. And there it comes, slowly. Slowly come out there. And there it's off. And there's a gasket on there. If you want to keep your gasket, be careful when you're pulling it out. Alright, let me grab the camera now. And there it is. It is out. And by the way, you can reuse this gasket if it's not torn. I've used a lot of them. They just kind of fit in there into the little case. And you may have to use a little bit of RTV sealant around the corners of this case, especially up around the heads and down around the bottom of the oh gosh, what is that, the crankcase down there. Alright, so there's the case. Let me set this off to the side, and now we can go in and kind of look and see. There it is. Right now we can go up here and see what's going on. There's the timing chain, and just hang my light up here. Now this side, the passenger side, seems to be okay. I don't see anything wrong. It's not busted. The problem was over here on this side. Let me shine the light, get the light set up. You're seeing this for the first time, just as I am. Alright, let's see. What is going on here? Something is really messed up. Let's see. Looks like this. Okay, I see the problem. This guide, the oil pressure guide, is not extended out. It looks like it's either jammed or it is frozen, because on this side, trying to get the light down, you can see this guide over here looks like it's working just right. I'm having a hard time with my light. Okay, there is the guide on that side, and this extended out, so it's keeping everything on this side tight on the passenger side. So my issue is apparently this guide. Ah, come on, light. I'm sorry, folks. Let me just turn it upside down. There we go. Yeah. That seems to be the issue. Whoop, look at my finger. Where's my finger? There it is. There's the guide. Right here, the two bolts, and this piece should be pushing down, making this chain really tight. So that was my clicking noise, and let's see. And it looks like, I don't know. I may have to check this, do some research here. Let me see if I can extend that. See if I can make it go in the long. Yeah, that's my issue. So I'm going to have to, apparently this guide is shot. Oops, there it is. It's not extending that chain and tightening it up. That's why I'm getting this noise, clickety-click noise. Alright, so let me go ahead and figure out what I'm going to do here. I'll give you guys an update a little bit later. I'm not going to make a video on how to put it together. I thought it was very important to show you how to take it apart. And when you put all this back together, it's fairly easy. You got timing marks there, and you got a timing mark on that cam along with the chain, and on the bottom. The bottom gets a little tricky putting the back chain on because it's kind of hard to see that mark on the bottom of the crank, which is down there. I'll give you a quick picture here in a second of the actual timing marks for this particular engine. But for now, let me go ahead and figure out what I need to do here. I need to check this guide out and see why it's frozen, why it's not working. Then I'll check all these guides, and I got to definitely check that chain, make sure it's okay. Worst case scenario is I might have to pull the chain clear off of this engine and retime it. But I'll have to do some research this afternoon and see what's going on. So I'll give you guys an update here in a little bit. Okay, everybody, a little bit of an update. I did find out what the issue was. I did have a bad oil pressure tensioner. I've actually had a couple of those saved up. And there's the new one. It's on there. And that one seems to be working a little bit better. It's fully extend. Now, what I did... I'll have to set the camera down here, and hopefully you can watch this. I'm going to show you what I found out and what was actually bad on this tensioner. Let's see, I think the camera's... Bear with me. Okay, now here is the new one. Well, let me just show you this. Here is the one I just took off. I filled it up with oil, and the way you can test it, make sure you do have a good one, is when you do this, you kind of push this rod in. This one is not making any bubbling noise as I push it back and forth. Now, here is the new one, which I had two of these. I filled this up with oil and watch the difference. See that bubbling? So that was my problem. The one I took off here was bad. It wasn't holding oil pressure, and it was causing the chain to rattle. And when it would warm up, the rattle would go away. But by then, it's got so much oil in it, it probably just was barely enough to keep enough oil in it to keep it from rattling. And also, this was apparently my oil pressure issue. When I come up to a light, the oil light would come on, blink, I'd give it gas, take off, it would go off. So this here was my oil issue. I'll do this one more time. This is the bad one. You can see nothing, no bubbles, no oil pressure. The seal, whatever in there, is probably bad. Here is the new one I just replaced it with. Black Gold Texas Tea. And when it releases, it squirts oil out of this little hole and oils the chain. Alright, sorry about the boring information. Let me take my gloves off and give you kind of an update what I'm going to finish up to do here. So this is actually going to be a big money saver and time saver for me. So you might want to check your pressure guides, make sure they're okay. They're labeled left and right. Sometimes I get confused which side's the right and left, but that one was the exact same same thing as this one was. It's got a little place cut in the side there for that oil hole, so you don't want them, get the wrong one on the wrong side. you might have an oil issue because it's not lined up quite right, holding pressure. And I can turn this engine, and this will keep this chain pretty tight. But when you run the engine, start it up, there's even more oil pressure in there, and it really puts a lot of tension on this, and it keeps this chain tight. And you notice now I can't even hardly move that chain around. So I'm happy there. All I got to do now is go buy some silicone, and I need to go get this T. I broke this water T last night. If you can see this. Apparently it was already broken. I didn't know it right there. I gotta go get a T. The top of it's broke from my heater hose. And I'm going to start putting this back together. Like I said, I'm not going to make a video on how to put it back together. Obviously, you will know how to put it back together. The hardest part of this job was that damn power steering unit. But if you can go out and rent a wheel puller, a gear puller for that power steering for a Ford, go for it. I would recommend you do that. And then let's see, and of course the valve pan covers weren't all that bad. So once I get this together, I'm going to start it up, and I'll shoot some video, make a little video for you guys, and let you hear how it sounds, okay? So that's the end of the video for now. I'll be back here a little bit later, and we'll make a quick video of how it's running. I'll give you an update how everything went back together. And by the way, I actually had a lot of guides and pieces left over that I've kept that were good for jobs like this. So that was my issue right there. I did not think to put oil in that and test those until the last minute when I took them off, and I'm glad I did, because that verifies that this one was bad. Okay, I'll give you guys a little update here in a day or so once I get it running. Alright, I went on ahead and pulled the chains off. I could not, I turned this engine a bunch of times with my ratchet on the crankshaft and could not get these gears and timing marks to line up, so I just pulled the chains off, and I can't put the cams up where they should be. I put the dot on the bottom crank down, and I got the back chain on, and there's my dots. Everything's all lined up there. And I got a little socket kind of holding that guide down, because I got to bolt up the wheel guide, and on the bottom, if I can get my light down there, I'll show you the mark on the bottom of the crank. There's a white mark that I got on there. And let's see. Well, actually, I'm going to take my light and hold it for a second. What I do, I take a cloth or a little sponge and put it underneath the crank chain. And if I zoom in there a little bit, I think if I can see where I'm at, I think you can see the timing mark there. Alright, we'll try that again. And as you can see, there's my mark. There's the mark on the crank, and there's the mark on the chain. And what I typically like to do, I'll take a cloth or just a little something, and once I know that chain is where I want it to be, I'll put a cloth under there or something to kind of hold it in there, hold it in place. That way that you won't have to worry about that back chain jumping off. Then you can go up on top and set your gear there, the timing mark. Then you can do the same thing on this side over here. It was probably in time, but I was not going to take a chance because that chain was pretty loose. It could have jumped a tooth. I wasn't going to put it all back together and kick myself later. But this side's timed up. Now here's the other chain, and I painted the marks. Oops. There's a link right there. It's got some paint on it. And a link on the bottom. So all I got to do now, go ahead and put that one on that side. And I'll do the same thing. I'll start it on the bottom. Then I'll come up here on the top. And I use my vice grips there on the cam. I grip it there where the cam just kind of spins, nothing is involved. And that's how I broke that bolt loose, and that's how I'll tighten it up. Same thing over here. And that'll be it, and I'll start putting this thing back together. And I will put my new guides back in, oil pressure guides, tensioner guides, I guess is the correct terminology. I got my silicone there. I'm going to put some good silicone on the back of that so it doesn't leak or hold so it holds good pressure. And also, just a little note, when you put these new guides on, make sure they're left, and you'll see an R on the other one. It says right and left, because they set up, this one over here sits upside down, and it has a check ball in it, and it keeps pressure, and it keeps that nice and tight. Now, I may have put the wrong one on there. I may have actually got them messed up because the one I took off did not have a left or right on it, so I'm not sure why it was like that. But this loose timing chain could have been my problem when I first rebuilt it about a year ago. But I do know now that I do have the left and right on the engine the way it's supposed to be. But hey, live and learn. So now I'm going to go ahead, like I said, start closing this up. Okay, I got all my marks lined up. There's my back timing chain, the cam light, and there's my front timing chain on the left, on the right side cam, on the passenger side. It's aligned. And there is my oil guide. And you're probably wondering how I'm putting this back on there. I actually have these little clip releases that come with the guides when you buy them. And once you put them on there, all you do is pull this little clip. Shine the light there. Pull the clip. Oh, maybe I won't shine the light. Then it releases that, and it makes it tight up against the guide. And on the bottom, we'll look real quick, and I'll show you the my light doesn't blow up on me. All right, let me do this. Shine my light up here, and here is the bottom of the crank. And you can see my marks, my crankshaft, the dot, and the chains. They are pretty much right where they should be. I apologize for the light. It's difficult to hold the camera in the light. And everything's perfectly aligned. So I am in good shape. So this should hopefully take care of my problem I've had with the timing chain making noise. And I took both those guides off, and I put good sealer behind it, tightened them up. It looks like I'm going to be okay. So I just wanted to touch base with you with that. And now I'm going to go ahead and start putting them back together. I've got to actually fix this water hose here. That T broke. Well, it was rotten. I went to Farm Store and bought another T for $1.79. It's 5/8. Stick that in there first because there's a little more room. And all I gotta do now is, like I said, put it together, and I will start this up. And once I get it running, I will make a quick little video toward the end of the video I'm making now, and add it to the entire video so you can hear how it sounds. Okay? All right. Let me go ahead and finish up here, and I'll be back with you guys a little bit later.